Have you ever been deeply confused by one painful question? If he rejected you, why does he suddenly come back? Why does a man who once seemed cold, distant, or completely certain about walking away suddenly reappear with curiosity in his voice, softness in his words, and a hunger for your attention that he never showed before? Here is the truth most women are never told. Sometimes a man does not understand your value when he has easy access to you. Sometimes he mistakes your warmth for weakness, your softness for certainty, and your love for something that will always be there waiting. But life has a strange way of teaching powerful lessons. The moment your energy is no longer available, the moment your attention is no longer his comfort zone, the moment you quietly choose yourself and begin glowing differently, he feels it. He notices the silence. He feels the absence. He starts remembering the way you made him feel. The peace you brought, the spark in your presence, the feminine energy that quietly wrapped around his heart in ways he never understood until it was gone. And suddenly, what he once walked away from becomes the very thing he cannot stop thinking about. But this story is not really about him coming back. It is about what happens to a woman when she stops chasing validation and starts standing in her power. Because there is something deeply magnetic, beautifully mysterious, and impossible to ignore about a woman who knows her worth. And when that shift happens, men notice. They always notice. The real question is not why he came back. The real question is, will he still deserve access to the woman you have become? One of the deepest reasons a man comes back after rejecting a woman is surprisingly simple. He finally feels what life is like without her presence. When you were there, giving your attention freely, offering warmth, kindness, loyalty, and that beautiful feminine energy that made his world feel lighter, he may not have fully understood what he had. This is the strange truth about human nature. People often overlook what feels constantly available. What is always there can begin to feel ordinary, not because it lacks value, but because familiarity blinds people to its true worth. He gets comfortable. He assumes your presence is permanent. He starts believing your care will always be there whenever he chooses to return to it. And in that false comfort, he slowly loses awareness of just how deeply your presence affected his life. But then something changes. You step back. You stop reaching out. You stop making him the center of your emotional world. You become quieter, not in sadness, but in strength. You begin pouring your love, your focus, and your energy back into yourself. And that is when silence begins speaking louder than words ever could. At first, he may enjoy the distance. He may convince himself that walking away was the right choice. He may distract himself with work, attention from others, or the noise of daily life. But eventually, the distractions fade and reality becomes impossible to ignore. He notices something is missing. The warmth that once comforted him is gone. The emotional safety he once had access to is no longer there. The soft attention, the deep connection, the feeling of being understood, those things are suddenly absent. And absence has a powerful way of revealing value. In the quiet moments, memories begin to rise. He remembers your laugh. He remembers the calm in your voice. He remembers how your energy made difficult days feel easier. He remembers how desired, respected, and emotionally alive he felt around you. What once felt ordinary now feels rare. What he once overlooked now feels impossible to replace. This is where many women make a mistake. They think their power is in convincing a man to stay. But real power is in understanding that absence creates clarity that constant availability never can. When a woman keeps chasing, keeps proving, keeps showing up for someone who cannot recognize her worth, she gives him no chance to feel the weight of losing her. But when she gracefully steps back, protects her peace, and moves forward with dignity, she creates the one thing that awakens reflection: distance. And in that distance, he begins seeing her differently. Not as someone easily available, but as someone deeply valuable. Suddenly, her attention feels precious. Her time feels rare. Her presence feels unforgettable. And this is the quiet beauty of feminine strength. It does not beg, force, or chase. It simply withdraws where it is not valued and lets absence reveal what words never could. That is when he starts wondering about you. That is when he checks your profile. That is when he thinks about reaching out. That is when rejection turns into regret. because sometimes the heart only understands what it had when it finally has to live without it. Another powerful reason a man comes back after rejecting you is because he sees the woman you become after the pain, and he is stunned by her transformation. Many men, when they walk away, quietly expect something. They expect sadness. They expect emotional chasing. They expect to still have silent access to your heart whenever they choose to return. Somewhere in his mind, he may believe that your world will pause, that a part of you will remain waiting, holding on to what was, hoping for what could have been. But what truly shakes him is when the opposite happens, when instead of breaking, you rise. When instead of chasing, you choose yourself. When instead of becoming bitter, you become brighter, softer, wiser, and stronger. That quiet transformation creates a kind of magnetism that is impossible to ignore. There is something deeply captivating about a woman who has gone through disappointment and still carries herself with grace. Not fake confidence, not loud attention-seeking energy, but real confidence, the kind that comes from healing, self-respect, and knowing her worth. She begins speaking differently, walking differently, carrying herself differently. Her smile becomes less about approval and more about inner peace. Her attention becomes valuable because she no longer gives it away carelessly. Her energy becomes warm but selective, soft but protected, open but no longer easy to access. That balance creates mystery, and mystery creates attraction. Suddenly, the man who once looked away starts looking back, not because you changed for him, but because he sees a version of you that radiates something rare. Quiet power. He starts wondering who you are now. He notices your glow, not just in appearance, but in spirit. There is a calmness in you he does not remember, a confidence in your silence, a spark in your presence. He sees that rejection did not reduce your value. It revealed it, and this realization creates emotional tension inside him. He begins questioning his choice. He begins comparing the woman he thought he understood with the woman standing before him now, and often what draws him back is not simply memory, it is curiosity. He wants to know the woman you became when he was no longer part of your story. This is why a woman's greatest revenge is never bitterness, drama, or proving something. Her greatest power is becoming deeply connected to herself, growing emotionally, expanding her world, building peace within, learning that love should add to her life, not define it. When a woman reaches that place, she becomes naturally magnetic. Her beauty becomes deeper because it is rooted in self-worth. Her presence becomes stronger because it is no longer asking to be chosen. It already knows it is valuable, and that energy is unforgettable. Men often come back not because they suddenly became wise overnight, but because they finally see what they failed to recognize before. They see strength where they expected weakness, confidence where they expected heartbreak, light where they expected darkness, and in seeing that, desire awakens. Respect grows, regret appears, because there is nothing more attractive than a woman who turns pain into power, rejection into growth, and silence into a glow so undeniable that the very person who walked away feels pulled back toward her, wondering how he ever let someone like that go. Another deep reason men often come back after rejecting a woman is because time teaches them what excitement cannot. Real value is rare. In the beginning, many people confuse attraction with connection. They chase what looks exciting, what feels easy, what gives quick attention, or what feeds the ego in the moment. Newness can feel thrilling, mystery can feel intoxicating, surface-level charm can create temporary sparks, and sometimes in that rush, a man walks away from something genuine because he assumes something better must be waiting ahead. He thinks deeper love will always be available. He believes emotional warmth is common. He convinces himself that meaningful connection is easy to find, but life has a way of revealing hard truths slowly, and those truths often arrive through experience. As time passes, he begins meeting different people. He experiences conversations that feel empty, attention that feels shallow, and connections that look beautiful on the outside but lack substance underneath. He may receive admiration, affection, or excitement, but something is missing. There is no emotional depth, no calm, no genuine understanding, no sense of being truly seen for who he is beneath the surface. That is when memory begins doing its quiet work. He starts remembering the woman he once rejected, not through fantasy, but through comparison. He remembers how natural things felt with you. He remembers your warmth, your softness, your intelligence, and the way your presence carried both comfort and spark at the same time. He remembers feeling emotionally understood, respected, and deeply connected in ways he took for granted. Suddenly, what once felt ordinary becomes extraordinary in hindsight. What makes this realization powerful is that it often catches him unexpectedly. He may be in a crowded room, surrounded by people, yet still feel a strange emptiness because connection without depth never fully satisfies the heart. He may laugh with others, spend time with others, even try moving forward, but certain memories stay alive because real energy leaves a lasting imprint. The way you listened, the way you cared, the way your feminine presence made ordinary moments feel meaningful, the emotional safety he once had access to, the softness that made him feel strong without needing to prove himself. Those things become difficult to replace because they were never small things. They were rare things. And rare things are usually recognized only after they are lost. This is why women should never reduce themselves to become more acceptable or easier to choose. What is deep is not always instantly understood. What is genuine is not always immediately valued. But authenticity carries timeless power. A woman who is emotionally present, graceful, loving, and deeply connected to herself creates an experience, not just attention, and experiences stay in memory far longer than temporary excitement ever does. Surface attraction fades, ego-driven choices become empty, but emotional depth lingers in the heart, and eventually, many men come back because they realize they did not simply walk away from a woman, they walked away from something real, something warm, something grounding, something beautiful in a way that cannot be copied. They begin to understand that while attention is easy to find, true connection is rare. And once that truth settles in, regret begins whispering what pride once silenced. I let go of someone special. That is often the moment he turns back, not because he suddenly changed overnight, but because life finally showed him the difference between what is common and what is truly unforgettable. Another powerful reason a man often comes back after rejecting you is because he realizes he no longer has easy access to you, and suddenly your value becomes undeniable. Human nature has a strange pattern. People often underestimate what feels guaranteed. When someone believes your heart will always remain open, your attention will always be available, and your energy will always be there whenever they decide they want it, they begin to move carelessly. Not always out of cruelty, but often out of comfort. They stop recognizing the privilege of your presence because they assume it is permanent, and certainty can quietly weaken appreciation. But the moment that certainty disappears, everything changes. The moment he senses that your world no longer revolves around him, that your peace is no longer tied to his messages, and that your heart is no longer sitting at the door waiting for his return, a new feeling awakens inside him, the fear of truly losing access. This is where emotional reality begins to hit him deeply. He notices that your attention is no longer easy to reach. Your replies become rare or non-existent. Your energy no longer reaches toward him. Your life seems fuller, calmer, brighter, and beautifully untouched by his absence. There is no bitterness, no dramatic display, no emotional begging, just quiet distance and graceful detachment. And strangely, that calm distance speaks louder than heartbreak ever could. It tells him something powerful without words. You have learned how to live without him. That realization creates tension inside him because what once felt secure now feels uncertain, and uncertainty often awakens desire in ways certainty never can. He begins wondering questions that never crossed his mind before. Is she talking to someone new? Has she emotionally moved on? Did I lose my chance? Is there now a version of her I can no longer reach? Curiosity grows, attention sharpens, memory intensifies. Suddenly, the woman he once took for granted becomes the woman he cannot stop thinking about. Not because she chased him, but because she stopped chasing altogether. Her absence becomes mysterious, her silence becomes magnetic, her independence becomes attractive. He starts feeling the emotional weight of what it means to be locked out of a space he once had easy access to, and that loss begins stirring regret. This is why boundaries are so powerful. A woman who knows her worth does not keep reopening doors for people who casually walk in and out of her life. She understands that access to her heart, her time, and her feminine energy is a privilege, not something to be treated lightly. And when a woman begins protecting that access, she naturally becomes more attractive, not through games, but through self-respect. There is something deeply captivating about a woman whose warmth exists, but whose standards are strong, whose softness remains, but whose heart is no longer easily available to those who failed to value it. That balance of grace and strength creates a quiet magnetism that draws attention without effort. And that is often when he comes back. When he realizes your love was never something ordinary, and your presence was never something guaranteed. He returns because losing access made him understand what having access truly meant. He returns because what once felt easy now feels rare. He returns because the possibility of never reaching you again becomes heavier than the pride that once kept him away. And in that moment, he finally understands a truth many learn too late. The most valuable things in life are often recognized only when they are no longer easily within reach. The deepest reason a man sometimes comes back after rejecting you is because you become the standard he quietly compares everyone else to. Long after conversations end, long after distance grows, and long after life seems to move on, certain people leave a mark that time cannot easily erase. Not because they were perfect, not because every moment was flawless, but because the connection carried something real, something meaningful, something emotionally rich, something that touched the heart in a way ordinary experiences cannot. When a woman brings warmth, grace, softness, depth, and genuine emotional presence into a man's life, she creates more than memories. She creates a feeling. And feelings are powerful because while details fade, emotions often stay alive for years. He may forget exact words, small moments, or specific dates, but he will remember how deeply he felt in your presence. He will remember the comfort, the spark, the peace, the excitement, and the quiet emotional pull that made being around you feel different from everyone else. At first, after walking away, he may believe moving on will be simple. He may assume he can easily find another connection that gives him what you gave. He may think chemistry is common, emotional depth is easy to replace, and feminine warmth is something he can find anywhere. But as time passes and life introduces him to different people, reality slowly begins revealing a difficult truth. What you offered was rare. He may meet beautiful faces, interesting personalities, and exciting new experiences, yet something continues to feel incomplete. There is no emotional ease, no deep sense of comfort, no natural connection that feels effortless and alive at the same time. And that is when comparison quietly begins, not because he chooses it, but because memory naturally measures new experiences against what once felt deeply meaningful. And often, without realizing it, he starts comparing everyone to you. He remembers your softness without weakness. He remembers your confidence without arrogance. So if you're sitting here wondering whether a man coming back means you should open the door again, pause for a moment, and really think about what has changed, not just in him, but in you. Because the real shift was never about his absence or his return. It was about what that space did to you. It forced you to see your own value without the noise of his attention. It pushed you into growth, even if it didn't feel comfortable at first. And now, the version of you standing here is not the same woman who once waited, questioned, or overgave. You are more aware, more grounded, more emotionally awake. And that changes everything. A man may return for many reasons: loneliness, realization, curiosity, or regret, but none of those reasons are stronger than your self-respect. If he comes back, you don't have to react emotionally or rush into old patterns. Instead, observe. Has he grown, or is he simply revisiting comfort? Is he offering consistency, or just temporary emotion? Because real love doesn't only return, it shows up differently the second time. More stable, more clear, more intentional. And if he doesn't come back, that doesn't reduce your worth even a little. It only confirms that your path was never meant to stay in confusion. Either way, Your power is not in who stays or returns. It's in how deeply you choose yourself moving forward. So keep building your peace. Keep protecting your energy. Keep becoming the kind of woman who doesn't chase, doesn't beg, and doesn't shrink for anyone's attention. And remember this, when a woman truly knows her worth, she doesn't need to force love to stay. She simply becomes the kind of presence that only the right energy can match.